Hello. What's up, everybody? It's Yoshinana195 coming at you with another Call of Duty gaming commentary from Black Ops 6. And this is going to be part 2 to my previous video on the topic of Am I Behind, while looking at some gameplay footage from the past as I journey on into this new year of 2026. So I guess I just kind of wanted to continue on from talking about those feelings when you're around kind of early 30s or late 20s, if you are feeling like you're behind in life, in whatever kind of area you might be thinking of. But I think particularly for myself, I often compare myself in terms of the career that others have versus where I am at in my own career and in my own thinking of what I want to do. But it's also, tied into that a little bit with relationships and kind of seeing what other people have that I don't have. So if you have those feelings as well, I definitely don't think it's an uncommon thing, and it's always like that age-old adage that comparison is the thief of joy. And it is true in the sense that no matter how often you look to someone else or out there in the world, you're always going to be like disappointed because you're going to find someone that's done so much more better than you. And I think it's really important never to get too down into that route, because man, oh man, you just feel like a piece of shit. You're going to feel like, what have I done? Oh my God, I'm 30 years old and this person at 23 has already accomplished way more than I have. So, and you're always going to find someone. So I think it's important to be inspired by others, but try not to kind of linger on those feelings from someone else, because if you do, it's just, you're never going to win. But I guess I want to kind of circle back to my ramblings about the balance between trying to find yourself versus kind of, finding a job that you really like. Because it's difficult in the sense that, and I've heard people say that, like, there's a reason why it's a job. It's a job. Like, I'm paying you to do something that most people don't like. So why are you expecting to like something like this? That's the whole reason why I'm paying for you. And that's fine for certain things. Like, there's a philosophy that kind of exists for that, I guess, or a lifestyle for people that are okay with doing a job that they don't necessarily love, and mentally kind of checking out. Whole severance, being mentally checked out, where that they just do the job so long as it allows them a lifestyle that they really love, that they actually like to do on the outside. I'm unfortunately not one of those people as much as I try to recognize and try to embrace that philosophy where, like, it's okay. Like, not every hour of a job has to be like super exciting, but geez, I spend like 8 hours at some workplace. I kind of expect or want to enjoy at least 50% of it. I can't just do something that's just mind-numbingly dull. Even when I worked in retail, not the most exciting of places, but at least the people that I worked with and the customers that I interacted with were so fun. And like, that alone kind of just carried it, so much more. And that it didn't matter that it was just a dumb or just a very simple retail job. And I know you can make the job fun. There's elements to that where you kind of get semi-conditioned and your mentality changes. But, at some degree, I think you have to kind of try to figure out a job that you kind of do enjoy. Because for me, myself, I can't justify trying to do 8 hours of something that I just have no interest in, and for the rest of my life, at least right now. Talk to me, 5 years time, where I'm like, what, I changed my tune. It's impossible. But at the same time, I think, the advantages that my parents had, where they didn't have this burden of choice they just did the work, and they didn't have this affordability of being like, I'm going to try this job, didn't work out, I'm going to quit, find a new one. And I've done that like a few times now, where it's almost like a bad habit, where I'm just like trying to figure out, okay, does this job work? Do I like this job? And I've done a few things right now in the engineering space, mainly in like consulting, and then even going back to school as a to see like if a teacher aide position would be for me. And I can do that only so often before like there's a trade-off where like not only do I lose on like the income salary growth that happens when you stay in a job, because that is a very obvious serious trade-off with people that stay in one kind of company where they can kind of grow and get a higher salary and become, say, managers, whatever, a seniority position of some sort, and with that becomes higher salary. But I think it's also just like you lose the trade-off of like finding your place, in the sense if you try a lot of different little things, you broaden your horizon, but you kind of become less of an expert in an area, and sometimes that can kind of be a mismatch or prevent you from finding a job that will really tickle your fancy, because you're like, oh, okay, I'll look at this CV, okay, he could do this, but he's done like 3 or 4 different jobs in 3 different fields and industries. I'm not sure like if he's the right person for this, because I'm not trying to say it gives off like flaky vibes, like you're just very picky and you might threaten to leave them, but like, oh, you can't really do this job unless you've kind of spent like you've some experience recently in that field, because like, wow, all right, if I say did engineering and then spent 3 or 4 years doing something completely else, and then I try to go back to engineering, they might be like concerned, like, you've kind of been out of the game a little bit too long. And I get it. I appreciate that you've, wanted to test the field and see what's out there, and you've trying to try to find yourself. But I really need someone like, compared to a graduate who's just fresh and already living and breathing engineering, it's more obvious to take them on board. So I think it's important to take into considerations. And someone told me like, there's no solutions in life, just like everything is a trade-off. And I really love that kind of quote. And so it's difficult to kind of, when you're trying to answer those questions, like, should I love my job? Is work always just meant to suck? Did I choose the wrong career? I get it in terms of, I think all of that can come from that issue of you just have this freedom of choice. Because when you don't have that freedom, you are kind of forced or conditioned into doing something that you may not like, but the benefit of that is that you have, say, stability, and you get higher incomes, and you get some sort of like consistency and a lack of worry of what should I do. You don't have that decision fatigue and weighing on your mind. Your only concern is potentially, how do I maybe earn more? Or the alternative could be like, shit, is this really my life? Like, am I really going to be stuck at this job? But I think that kind of sort of fades away when you realize you can't do anything else because you're forced to do that. And instead you start pivoting your mentality to like, well, what can I do on the outside that's going to really make me feel alive? Like, have a family, and what experiences, where am I going to travel? You kind of, since you can't change your job, I'm talking like, say you have absolutely no choice, like what my parents do, or the older generation, you don't even worry about like, shit, should I really be spending 8 hours of my day doing something I love. Like that just completely, like all that mentality, your brain power doesn't even go to that. So, and that's kind of nice and kind of, it's a positive. And I think when you also like live in such an age that's like full of promises in terms of technology and what science is doing, the jobs of today simply outweigh the number of jobs that were before in the past. Like, being a YouTuber, I think, is like 10% of kids' dreams, and there are genuine jobs out there that people do, like streaming and YouTubing, and completely, like, AI is going to change jobs. So like, not only is the choice of jobs a difficult thing to kind of take on, but like the number of them, like there's so much out there, and what are you going to do? Especially when you see a lot of like quote unquote fun, exciting jobs, it's understandable to think, to be like, like, I'm just gonna, why would I do this boring job? And look, I'm watching I Show Speed, killing it, something like that. And like, look how easy like life is, where I can do these other things, like, YouTube commentaries, video essays, or I could do a podcast, like so many podcasts. I guess a lot of these are relatable to me, but like the experience is out there in terms of like just the ease and the number of jobs that never existed before. I think further adds complication to what you want to do in life. So I don't know if I have the answer, and obviously I'm kind of rambling on, and I clearly don't have an answer myself. I constantly weigh a balance on it. I think there is some reasoning or some logic in saying having a stable, day job and doing something fun on the outside, like a hobby like this, a passionate hobby. And if that passionate hobby turns into a real life, from a side hustle to a real profession, that's great, and that, I think that's ideal. But having something like a day job and doing something, useful and stable that gives you kind of some consistency isn't necessarily a bad thing. So right now, I think I'm in that. I'm not sort of in two minds, but I'm trying to like get the best of both worlds, where I can have something fun on the outside while at least trying to do something stable and moderately fun, even if it's boring for the most part during the day. So until something like a side hustle turns into something bigger. But anyways, I'm rambling on. Hopefully some of those questions and feelings and thoughts kind of, again, I guess, can resonate with you and maybe hopefully inspire you to think. But I would like to know, do you recognize those trade-offs? Have you thought of like, I'm just going to let go on my quote-unquote dreams, or like my side hustles, or try to just focus on getting a stable job where I'm happy, that provides a lifestyle that I actually really like? Or have you been able to really just go all in on a side hustle and just commit to it, and it's paid off? I think if I had to hazard a guess, it'd be more of the former, where people experience that, there's nothing wrong with having a day job, but, they still enjoy how it provides for their outside interests, their hobbies, their creative experiences, because that's where they can get a little bit of fun. Because, man, financial stress is a serious thing, and that's a whole other can of worms that we can open up to on another day. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this Warzone gameplay commentary. Let me know down in the comments below what's going on in your life. Where are your feelings at? Are you currently happy with your career? And if not, or if you've made some mistakes, what are some lessons you've learned along the way? I'd love to know. That's it for me, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.